to help you develop and grow your brand in a more authentic and sustainable way, locally and globally. Whether it is your personal brand or company brand, your product or service level brand. Learn from thought leaders from different parts of the world, from CEOs, business owners, managers, and experts who tell their brand stories and share their valuable first-hand insights. My name is Brigitte Bojkowszky. I'm the founder and owner of Brigitte Brands, a branding strategy boutique offering online courses, workshops, one-on-one exclusive coaching. I help my clients and students craft meaningful strategies that effectively elevate their personal and organizational brands so they unleash their full potential and shine. Let's get started and dive with me into the world of brands. Today, I have the pleasure to have Dr. Pantea Hannauer on my show. She's a board certified child neurologist who is a full time physician practicing evidence based medicine and is an entrepreneur and mother of two teen boys. She has various roles, recognitions, and accomplishments. She is an integral part of the world renowned pediatric neurology department at UCLA Medical Center, Mattel Children's Hospital, where she is recognized as one of the premier experts in the field of autism, epilepsy, and pediatric behavioral and neural developmental issues. She's also actively involved in teaching other professionals and residents and medical students. Dr. Pantea Hannauer is also the medical director and founder of Pediatric Minds Medical Clinic, the Early Childhood Treatment Center, and Pediatric Minds Development Services. After years of researching, overcoming multiple bureaucratic obstacles, and pure persistence and passion, she founded these programs in 2011. Pediatric Minds is a unique program, first of its kind, that is an interdisciplinary clinic specializing in providing cutting edge evaluations and scientifically based treatments of the highest quality to children with autism or other neurodevelopmental disorders in a cohesive and integrated way. The program has cared for children with many different diagnoses, including emotional and behavioral challenges, developmental delays, autism, ADHD, cerebral palsy, and genetic disorders. So I warmly welcome Pantea Hannauer. Welcome to BrandsTalk.
Hi, Bridget. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be a part of this show.
I'm also very excited to having you on my show, Pantea. Before we dive into deep into what you have established with your clinic, could you tell us a little bit about your background, about your life journey that brought you right there where you are now, and also maybe what countries you have lived and what languages you speak? So, what's your journey that brought you here to California, to Los Angeles?
Sure, I'm more than happy to tell you about my story. So, I am originally from Iran. I was born there. And when the revolution happened in the late 70s, my parents, like many other Iranian families, left Iran before things got bad, and we lived in Europe. We did move around quite a lot. We first lived in Milan and then England. And, at the age of 7, that's kind of a tough thing to go through for a young girl who didn't speak Italian and didn't really know English. But I think that journey prepared me for being more resilient and hardworking later on in life. For instance, in Italy, I learned Italian much more quickly than my parents. And so they would use me as their translator. So we would go to the embassy there. Whenever we would go to the doctor at the age of 8, by then, I would translate for them.
Mm.
So, going through adolescence, which by early middle school, I was in England, it's emotionally we go through so much during that age, that then to have the challenge of getting used to a new culture and a new language, I think really contributed to my ability to always push through and be resilient and work hard. So then we finally relocated to California, Los Angeles, in early middle school for me. And that's where we finally ended up staying, which was a reprieve. And it was a whole new culture I had to get used to. But fortunately, by then, my English was good. And through that process, I also learned that I wanted to be a leader. I wanted to make a difference. And early on, I developed a passion for medicine. And I knew early on I wanted to be a doctor because I've always liked to help. So that's how then I eventually went to college at UCLA, then went to medical school in Chicago, and then came back to UCLA to do my residency and training
Mm.
in neurology and pediatric neurology.
Yeah, and you have stayed ever since at UCLA. You moved up the career ladder there. Yeah. And then, yeah, and then you also started your own clinic in 2011, it was, right? And
Correct.
it's called the Pediatric Minds Medical Clinic. So, can you tell us a little bit about your clinic and who your clients are and what exactly you're offering?
Sure. I think what I would like to also share with you my journey of how I decided to even open up a clinic like that. So, when you go through when you make the commitment to be a doctor, you're taking the Hippocratic oath and you're committing to do everything you possibly can to care for your patients. And your first priority is the outcome and the well-being of your patients. So when I finished my training, going through medical school and through residency, and I first started practicing medicine, I was feeling very frustrated because I felt as though I was limited in how I can help my patients. So,
Mm.
especially in the field of child neurology, a lot of the ways you help the families and the patient themselves is by providing them with various therapies. So, there was a period where I would see these patients. I would say, okay, this is your diagnosis. You have autism, you have cerebral palsy. Please go and get all this help in this way or in this other manner for your child. Come back in 6 months and we will look at the progress. So then these parents would go and they would come back in 6 months and nothing had changed. So I started feeling very helpless and I
Mm.
didn't want to be someone who just diagnoses and then maybe just gives medicine. I wanted to offer more. So then I started doing research for a good 2 years. What can I do? How can I provide a better quality of care to these families? Because there is places out there, but a lot of them are poor quality. They don't have good enough training. They don't truly understand in a neurodevelopmental way the needs of the child. And so it literally, Bridget, it took me 2.5 years of constant research to find a way to
Mhm.
put together a program where it could be funded through healthcare insurance so that I could be available to much more families rather than just select few families. And to then do the work of how do I put this program together? So um, after that 2 years of research and getting some loans from the bank and interviewing and using my connections to UCLA to get some high quality people, I was able to put together this program.
Wow.
And yeah, so we've been open
Mhm,
now since
mhm, mhm,
2011.
mhm. Yeah, so I love your story because you saw there is a need and you saw there is this gap. Yeah, nobody else could fill but you. So you
Right,
did everything that you could in order to, yeah, make it possible that these people that you had to send away to someone else, that
right,
you can help them. So there was this inner kind of urge. You were kind of
yes,
following um, yeah, maybe your big why, you have to do that.
Right.
There's a higher purpose that
Yeah.
needs to be achieved, right? For yourself, right? You had this vision of this clinic then at the end of the,
Yeah.
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 And so, how was that transformation? I mean, you're still a very integral part of UCLA, but you're also an entrepreneur. You started your own business. How was it for you? I mean, as a doctor, yeah, to add on all these entrepreneurial skills. I mean, what were the challenges and what was rather easy for you? So, how was that journey?
Yeah. Yeah. There, Bridget, there's a funny saying we share amongst all doctors is
Yeah.
we're great at clinical care, but we're terrible business people. And that's because in medical school, they don't teach you any of business aspects of things in the real world. So it was a very challenging time and learning curve. And I'm still growing and I'm still learning. But I think, to go back to your question of, what was that drive for me?
Mhm.
The thing that drove me was what drives me on a day to day basis, what makes me feel happy and gives me satisfaction and gives me goosebumps is knowing I've been helpful to someone else,
Yeah.
knowing I've made someone else's life better or even easier. When you
Mhm.
have, let's say, a 5-year-old severely autistic child who's nonverbal and is aggressive, and parents are desperate, just having that child be able to sit and eat without getting up 10 times, or having the child to be able to fall asleep easily changes the quality of life for the entire family. So that has always been my drive. And being in an academic setting and having trained at UCLA, I've always had very high levels of expectations of the quality that needs to be provided. So, with that said, the piece that I really wasn't educated on and aware of that I really learned on the job was how do you manage, how do you do human resources, how do you manage the interplay between your staff and your employees, how do you designate that organizational structure. So I did initially have a very small consulting firm that guided me.
Mhm.
But because I was starting, very small in sort of an organic way, I couldn't really afford to keep them on. And so I think what's been helpful for me is to always treat my staff as equals and to always show them that they're important and that their say is important and that their concerns are valid, and not, even though they might make a suggestion that I know is not going to work.
Mhm.
I think I've learned that to be a good leader or to be a good entrepreneur, you have to hear people and validate them and maybe even consider trying something the way they suggest, even though you might know it's not going to work, as long as it's not at the detriment of the company,
Mhm.
so that that person can feel empowered and so that that person is more motivated to keep trying to do their best for you.
Mhm.
Because that's how I learned when I was in medical school. I said, well, how about this medication? And even though maybe my professor knew that maybe this isn't the best way, he would let me talk it out and think it through. And then he would show me, the other way of doing it. So that's been a very important part. So to me, having a very accepting and open work environment where everybody's concerns are heard is critical. And when we've had staff who don't engage in conversation and talking about how they feel, it doesn't work out. It
Mhm.
doesn't work out. So we welcome questions, we welcome ideas, and we make sure to say no question is a dumb question. It's all about discussing, having open dialogue and being happy. And through these 11 years, the staff that have been consistently with me and believe in this vision, they're so passionate, they're so happy. We work with little kids, so we are little kids at heart, and you can tell the joy in their eyes and in their demeanor on a day-to-day
Mhm.
basis, and the families feel it and the patients feel it. And so many families say, oh, we're now part of the Pediatric Minds family, which I love because I want to be considered as a part of their family in their journey while we help their children.
Mm. That's beautiful what you just have mentioned, and yeah, so it's really about listening and guiding, listening to your stuff and guiding your stuff in the knowing, it might not work out in that way, but let's guide them. Maybe they figure it out themselves on the way, right? So, and having these conversations. And I think since you are such a passionate person, you are striving for your why, for your North Star, you are inspiring so many people, and your stuff is inspired. So you are believing in the same vision, and you are on the same mission. So
Yeah.
you are really going for something very, very beautiful altogether. Yeah, so yes, you are a woman. You are in your sweet spot, right? You are passionate and about what you're doing. So you also strongly engage in research. You're publishing in a lot of A+ journals. You
Mhm.
have received different kinds of rewards. For example, the
Yeah.
Rising Star Award in 2017 for creating an effective business model with passion and with commitment to making a difference in the community it serves. And you're also recognized in an ebook of LA's top 10 pediatricians and family practitioners. And you have also been recognized in the South Bay Magazine, Moontide Media, the Women's Issue, Women in Business, as a remarkable woman making an impact in our community and the world. So you are, uh, yeah, shining very, very bright. You are a star in the sky, and yeah, and in the marketing terms, we would call that a powerful personal brand. So,
Mhm.
what does it mean to you to be a powerful personal brand? A personal brand, something that makes you you. What is it that makes you so special, Pantea?
I think what makes the brand so special for us is the hard work, not giving up and relentlessly believing in that what you're doing
Mhm,
is what needs to be done
mhm,
and what you're doing is impactful and helpful. I mean, we get goosebumps every day at work, and we have so many grateful families that are just blown away by the progress their kids make. And I think I have instilled that hard work culture in my staff because, as you mentioned yourself, being a woman can have its own set of challenges, especially in medicine. I know we've evolved and we've come a long way, but there were multiple inherent biases that I encountered through the process, specifically dealing with insurance companies. As you know, in the US, we have HMOs and we have private payer options, PPOs. And in order, it's not an automatic covered service to get funding to help these children. And so, whenever you want to go above and beyond, you have to get authorization. And there were countless um, dead ends that I encountered with getting authorization from insurance to the point where I would personally get on the phone with the medical director of Blue Cross of America or of the West Coast and challenge them, say, why don't you want to fund helping this 3-year-old?
mhm,
And I can't even tell you the things I was told about, well, you're too small. What you're doing is great. It's cutting edge. It's the way of the future. But maybe if you were bigger, maybe if you had 10 franchises, and I never took no for an answer. And every time they denied the coverage, the company hired a lawyer and would pay the lawyer to fight every single case all the way to the state. And 90% of the time, it would get turned over in our favor. And so gradually, I think the insurance plans realize that I'm not going to take no for an answer. I'm going to persist because ultimately what we're doing is in the patient's best interest. May not be the best interest for the insurance plans, but we will ultimately prevail and win. You just have to be persistent. So that attitude of hard work and never giving up
Mhm.
is something that I think is really critical in keeping our quality high and staff motivated, to the point where if I have a staff who's like, Dr. Hannauer, I really can't get this child to spontaneously gesture and communicate. We say, come on, you can do it. Try it this way, try it the other way, use this approach. So that sort of pervasive, never give up and push the children to develop to their potential, I think comes from everything that we've done. And trust me, I'm still learning. I'm
Yeah,
still learning the
we
business
are.
side and the
Yeah.
clinical side. The more you know, the more you need to learn.
Mhm.
So I think what defines the brand is persistence, quality, and
Mhm.
passion and love.
Mhm.
We love what we do. I think that that's a huge driving force.
Yeah, I love that. I love that love. Yeah. And, exactly. I mean, when you say, I also could not take no as an answer if the insurance company tells me, if you have a franchise, if you have bigger, then maybe we cover that. But what does that have to do? The size have to do, um, yeah, with the support of the child. I mean,
Yeah,
I-
yeah, but
it's
that's the
ridiculous.
system. It's all about the money, as
Yeah,
people would tell you.
yeah, I
And
love.
even when I created this, my intention was to help as many people as possible.
Yeah, and here
Right?
you
I
have to
could
be.
easily just be selective, but that's not what I wanted.
Yeah. So here you need to make the difference. You have to be persistent and to push the boundaries that are out there as a woman. Yeah. So you
Yep.
stand up, you own your voice here. And I think that is great. Yeah. Do you have any other helpful advice of how we can strengthen our personal brand? What is your recipe? What are you prescribing yourself? Other than being persistent and love, is there
Yeah.
anything else that you would like to
Yeah.
mention?
Sure. So the other thing that I think is critical is having a little bit of a balance in your life. If you are not happy personally, and if you don't have a way to excite yourself and give yourself downtime and stimulate yourself, then you're not going to be able to have that same level of dedication and passion with the big picture in mind, right? I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, we all want to make a difference.
Mm,
We all want to contribute and we want to live a comfortable, happy life, right? One isn't worth it necessarily without the other, right? So I think for me, the key has been to have really good friends, a great family support system, and knowing to take a lot of breaks when needed. So go on a lot of short vacations, even a weekend away, and I feel strongly that that really energizes and empowers you. And I love having some girl time with my friends. I think all of those things give me the break that I need and center me and focus me again. And traveling and you know gaining new experiences and being stimulated in different ways, not just in the business or academic way.
oh, wonderful. So I'm hunting for pieces of advice from you. That's fun. So you're really following your vision with your medical clinic. You're living your why. So do you have some pieces of advice for, especially for women who want to start their own business, who have
Yeah.
the urge, yeah, to start it
Yes.
and to be the best? Do you have any advice for them?
Yes. So I would say number one, um, have an idea of what you want to do. What is your ultimate vision? Have a clear vision. Don't talk about vagueness, but be very specific in your vision. Like, I want to run the best bakery in LA, not just something food related. I think number one, having a very clear vision of
Mhm.
what you want to do is the first step. Then you need to look around at modeled businesses or models of that business, to see that you look up to, that you're inspired by, to see how did they get there?
Mhm.
What did they do to get there? How were they set up? And then being open to getting advice,
Mhm.
talking to various other entrepreneurs or people in the related field about how did they do it? What was their experience? And I did all of that before I opened up my program. And it was interesting because some people would say, it's not going to necessarily work, but others would say, oh, I think it might work. So being able to then take all of that advice and meshing it, blending it in together, and going with your gut, your intuition as to what feels right for you,
Mhm.
what level feels right for you in terms of level of effort and level of commitment feels right to you. Um, and then it's critical to read a lot, listen to podcasts, listen to other people's experiences, and then really have the confidence and be brave and have the strength to just go for it
Yeah, that's beautiful.
and realize you're going to fail. Realize, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I thought, oh my gosh, we might have to close next month because insurance is denying this, but just realize that you're going to fail a lot.
Mm.
But every time you fail or every time you think you didn't do something good enough, you need to look at that as a way to learn and to say, okay, I see what happened here. And now let's change it and do it differently. And the other thing I think that's critical is knowing to delegate. There is no way you can do everything. And that's something I learned early on where I wanted to control everything because it was my vision and I know exactly how to make it the best quality, but you can't survive that way. And if you don't know where to let go and trust other people and be trusting of other people, you're not going to gain from them. You're not going to allow them to bring things in and you're not going to grow.
Mm.
So delegating also and knowing that you can't do everything yourself I would say is a big thing to remember as more and more women are becoming entrepreneurs and venturing out, and absolutely never take no for an answer if you believe in what you're doing. Never ever.
Okay. Wow. That is such invaluable advice. Thank you so much, Pantea. Yeah, and you mentioned a failure is more something to learn, something like that. Is there any experience that, or let's say a failure, yeah, that was a major learning for you, a setback or a detour that was significant, that shaped your way, that shaped you, and made you leap going forward?
Right, right. Absolutely. I think there's always small steps along the way, knowing who to trust and who not to trust and who to believe and not to believe. A specific I mean, gosh, there's so many.
One.
I think one of the biggest challenges was, when with one of the companies, we realized that we're not getting the reimbursements in order to keep the doors open from insurance. And we had to pull back and cut back on the staff, let go of staff. And that made me redesign how we are practicing to make it more efficient so that we're not cutting it so close so we won't need to close if something like insurance refusing to pay us happens. So there was a time where I met with my staff and I said, if we don't if you guys aren't able to work with the families more often or with the patients more often, then we're not going to get the funding and we're going to have to close. And so that the biggest lesson I think I learned was to share that information with the management team, not to shield them from it. Like if they don't realize, you know, how things flow, then they won't know to step it up.
Yeah.
So that to me was probably the biggest lesson. And since then I've included my senior management, but also my senior clinicians, to the point where now they say, "Oh, Dr. H, we realize we were down a couple of patients. Let's increase it for 2 months to make up for those months." So if you don't include them, I mean, you don't have to include them in all the details of the finances, but they need to understand
Mhm.
how things flow. If you don't include them, then they're not going to know to sacrifice and maybe work a little harder for 2 months so that they can relax 2 months later. So I think that was one of the biggest lessons I've learned, was to include the staff more on some of the ups and downs of the business side of things.
Wow. Ah, that's a great learning. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you, Pantea, sharing that with us. We are almost at the end now, and I would like to do a quick word wrap with you.
Okay.
Yeah, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, good. So the first term would be children,
Great.
empowerment,
Passion.
women,
Strong.
Italy.
Wine.
I know you love Italy, so I had to include it.
I love it.
And brands.
Brands. The best. The best. Something to strive for.
Good. Pantea, if someone wants to get in touch with you, where do they find you?
Absolutely. We have our website at pediatricminds.com. You can send me an email through the website. You can also connect with me through the UCLA system. My email is on there too. But you can also call the clinic, and our phone number is on the website, and just leave a message. Email, calling, either one works. Email's preferred.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm more than happy to talk to anyone and help inspire people, because there's so much we can be doing to help people and grow ourselves
Okay,
and be successful.
beautiful. Pantea, thank you so much for being with us today here on Friends Talk Live. And it was really a pleasure having you. You're such a remarkable woman, and with your passion, you're making such an impact. And with your commitment, um, yeah. So I'm really grateful having you here on my show today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bridget, for having me. And it was fun. I had a great time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, thank you all for joining Brands Talk today. Give it your social love and leave your comments below. Do you know you can also listen to this show as a podcast on your go? Just follow Brands Talk on your favorite platform. And if you are interested in learning more about my services, head over to my website, brigittebrands.com. I hope you will join me again when we dive into the world of brains, live or by having me in your earbuds, walking that talk. Bye for now. Let's shine. You deserve it.